The trick to being successful in transitioning to a whole food diet is to not overcomplicate things. My name is Dr. Ruth Dotton. I'm a board certified adult psychiatrist, and I talk a lot about the importance of using metabolic and lifestyle changes to target root causes of mental illness. And one of the things I talk about a lot is the crucial role of diet in our mental health. When we consume things like ultra-processed foods that contain a lot of refined sugars and carbohydrates and seed oils, these are going to contribute to things like inflammation, oxidative stress, and insulin resistance, all of which are contributors to mental illness. So one of the best things that you can do for your mental health is transitioning from our standard American diet, which is about 60 to 70% ultra-processed foods, to a whole food diet, which of course may include foods with some processing. Milk has processing, nut butters have processing, but is much more focused on nutrient-dense, less processed items that are good for brain and body health. However, when I talk to patients about this, there are a number of concerns that people bring up. Things like, it costs too much money, I don't have time, or I don't know how to cook or prepare those foods. And while I'm not illegitimizing these concerns, and that it certainly is a learning process to transition from eating more convenience foods and ultra-processed foods to more whole foods, these are all things that can be overcome. You do not have to buy the very expensive whole food type snack foods or pre-prepared meals. It's actually relatively inexpensive to buy these whole foods in their whole food form. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, depending on the nut. Additionally, you don't have to become a chef or learn how to make all of these whole food healthy snacks. You can just have whole foods and eat them in their whole food form. They're perfectly good that way. So some things that I recommend that are high in healthy fats, protein, fiber include things like cheese sticks, fruits, vegetables, yogurt, cottage cheese, nuts, seeds, legumes, hard-boiled eggs. And although these things are not terribly expensive, they certainly are still barriers for some, especially the patients that I work with in my federally qualified health center. So for this population, we walk through what is doable with their budget. It could be canned meat, canned tuna, canned salmon, canned mackerel, sardines. Those are all gold mines as far as healthy fats, good sources of protein. And yes, there may be concern about mercury exposure, but if you're eating these things a couple of times a week, the potential benefits that you're going to get when you compare it to eating an ultra-processed snack bar are likely far going to outweigh the potential risks. Other ideas include things like frozen fruits and vegetables. They're cheap, they last a long time. Popcorn kernels, legumes, certain nuts like peanuts are all much cheaper than ultra-processed foods and relatively affordable. And if you're worried about not having time to prepare these foods, you do not have to follow fancy, complicated recipes. You can just cook the foods in their whole food form. Cook a bunch of chicken, cook a bunch of quinoa, steam a bunch of vegetables. It does not have to be complicated. So if you have means to buy fancy, pre-prepared whole food meals or snacks, great. If you have time and energy to make them all yourself, amazing. But it's not necessary. And I make this video because although there are real barriers, we do tend to impose barriers on ourselves, mental barriers that keep us from being able to make real, positive, sustainable change. And so I would challenge you all, if there is a little thought or voice that pops up when someone suggests making some real changes to your diet, what are one or two ways that you could work around that potential barrier? Additionally, if you're interested in more direct content and resources from me, I do have an email list, so feel free to DM me with your email, and I'll see you in the next one.